Hi, it's me again. It's Brogan with the Capabling. I hope you're having an awesome day. Today I want to talk about cost savings, why they're important, and how do you go about making a cost saving. So, we know that everything is pretty much in disarray right now with the whole pandemic. So, businesses are dying. Businesses are literally dying. Everywhere you turn, companies are filing a Section 189, they're preparing to retrench, they're looking to cut costs. That, that, that is where we at right now. You don't hear many business owners, many CEOs talking about, guys, let's go out there and make this money. Almost nobody is focused on sales. It's as if they've decided that making the sales would be much more difficult than it would be to actually just, you know, cut costs. Because let's face it, we had some very prosperous times. Some of us more than others, but we were in prosperous times. And if you don't think you are, now you feel what it's like to be in a time that isn't prosperous. So why would you want to make a cost saving, you personally, irrespective of what it is you do at your company? Cost savings help. They help with job security. Let's be realistic. Anybody who's helping save money right now in a company is naturally going to be seen in a much stronger light. I'm sure, depending on your position, I, as an IE, with all my continuous improvement projects, I'm being requested to quantify, and I must be able to justify and explain those cost savings and explain how we're going to go about achieving them, and then it also needs to be compared with what we actually realize. So if I were to say, perhaps I made a 10% material saving here, which equates to 20,000 per month. At the end of the month, at the bottom line, we should be able to see how much of that saving actually pulls through to the bottom line. Because on the surface, it sounds simple, but once you add all the various factors, overheads, and things like that, your saving really does get eaten away at, to a point where it becomes, it looks so much less than you thought it would be, which has happened to me. Like, you expect like a massive saving, a few 100,000, a few million, depending on how much leeway you have. And with that, you have to look at it practically. You've got to look at what are the things affecting your savings and how can you best affect that stuff. So, as I was saying, apologies. As I was saying, job security. It helps you with critical thinking. It helps you analyze the situation better. It helps you look at your process. It helps you look at your job and say to yourself, okay, these are the key areas in my job, and then these are the ones that affect the bottom line the most. And then you narrow your thinking, because if an area brings an income of 10,000 and if an area brings 100,000, if you save 1% in both those areas, which area will have more impact? Naturally, it would be the 100,000 area. So you need to take your efforts and you need to focus them in the right area. I know sometimes you become passionate about something and you just become really engaged, but you need to ensure that you're constantly reaffirming where it is you are and how big an impact you'll make in your current position, in your current area, and you've got to tackle it with that mindset in order to really break away and crush it. So the number one tool, and I'm dominantly in a manufacturing environment, so this is how I came across this. It forms part of the Lean Six Sigma tools, and the number one tool for me is the seven ways. The seven ways is the holy grail of cost savings in the manufacturing environments, and a lot of what it says actually applies to most environments, but I've dealt specifically within the context of manufacturing environments. Just to make it easy for you, I'm gonna go through the 7 ways real quick. First one is defects. So normally you'd be making a product, you'd be maybe you're making cars, maybe in the automotive industry. Defects tend to be very expensive because once you've made a defect, not often can you rework it, can you fix it, and even when you do fix it, it runs up the overall cost of a product. So if it costs me 1 rand per part, and then it costs me an additional 80 cents to fix a part, that means if I had a defect rate of 10%, for every 100 parts I make, 10 need to be reworked, which is an additional 80 cents. So that's an additional 8 rand. So for every 100 units you run, you then are paying 108 rand, which makes your cost not 1 rand a unit, but 1 rand 8 cents a unit. So that's something you've got to keep in mind. And this only increases depending on how big a line you're running, how many units come out, and what your defect rate is, and how you go about identifying and fixing those defect rates. We had a case where we were making this part, and the tools were so damaged that we were losing something like 35%. Like, that was our reject rate. 35% of all parts that came out they needed rework. You had to sit there, you had to figure it out. It was chaos, and that material was like one of our most expensive materials, but more on that later. Second waste, and this is overprocessing. Overprocessing means doing more to something than you actually need to do. It's important for you to understand that increased steps allow for increased problems, which allow for more failure. It gives the process more room to come apart and fall apart, and that's something you really want to avoid, because those are the things that will ultimately really lead to more defects. It'll lead to you needing more manpower. It'll lead to you wasting more material, because the more steps you have, the more time there is to make a mistake. You'll find that something that is 1 step has way fewer mistakes than something that is 10 steps. And that's because at each step, there's something new that needs to happen, which gives it another chance to fail on you. So you really want to avoid that. Third one is overproduction. Overproduction is simply making more than you need to at that point in time. That'll increase your stock, that'll increase your holding costs. It becomes a nightmare, because you reach a point where you start running out of space. And when you start running out of space, stuff goes missing. Trust me, stuff goes missing. So you want to keep it to what you need, plus a little bit of safety stock. That way, there won't be too much room for stuff to go missing, because if you only have what you need and just a little bit extra, people have to be more vigilant. People have to understand that this is what it is, and naturally your material cost will be nice and low. Another issue is waiting. Waiting is a waste, because if there's 3 processes, but let's say the guy at process number 1 is medium speed, the guy at process number 2 is the slowest speed, and the guy at process number 3 is the fastest speed. That means the guy at number 3 will always be waiting for number 2, and there'll be a high buildup in front of number 2. Those are things you want to avoid. Those are things that promote, I don't want to say laziness, but yes, it promotes laziness. I found if you don't place enough in the day for someone to do, and when I say stuff to do, I mean it must actually be challenging. It must actually be something that gets a person's brain moving. They start finding ways to fill up that time. People do not like being bored. Like, people are not fans of being bored. I'm sure you yourself aren't a fan of being bored. So they will find a way to fill it up if you don't fill it up for them. Next is inventory. Inventory is just how much stock do you have. We spoke a little bit on this earlier, but how much stock do you have? If your customer orders 100 a month and you've got 1,000 in stock, that means for the next 10 months, you're going to be holding that stuff. The issue with that is that's 10 months for something to go wrong. 10 months for a fire, 10 months for someone to bump it and it falls, 10 months for it to be damaged. You don't want that. You don't want to hold that kind of risk. That kind of risk, it can be detrimental. There have been cases where people ordered a lot because you get a huge saving the more you order, only for there to be a small leak in the roof, entire set damaged, it's sitting with you. That cost, you've got to bear that cost and buy the same item again. So you really want to manage it accordingly. You want to put a min and max in place. You really want to manage your stock accordingly. Waste number 6, transportation. Now, transportation simply means how much must something travel. Let's say you have 3 different processes. Okay, making a pizza. You got someone who makes the dough, someone who adds a topping, someone who puts it in the oven. Final step, you pack it up, it gets given to the delivery guy. What if I then added a step and maybe putting tomato sauce? Now it must go from guy 1 to guy 2 to guy 3, guy 4, and out. That means overall the time for pizza coming out goes up. So you want to identify how few processes do you need to get the job done in an adequate, appropriate, and a timeous fashion. You don't want to add more, because when you add too many things in, that gives more area for failure, more area for things to go wrong. And these are the things you're trying to mitigate. These are the things you're trying to get done, you're trying to stop, you're trying to avoid. Waste number 7. Waste number 7 is motion. It took me a while to fully understand what they meant when they said motion. But essentially it is, what am I doing? How am I doing it? Am I doing things that are unnecessary? For instance, I'm making a sandwich. I put the bread, lettuce, tomato, cheese, close it up. I'm done. Now, what if I put the cheese, I put the tomatoes, I put the bread, I close it up. I hand it over to the next person, and then they finally go ahead and they put salt and pepper. Could I not have accomplished all that all on my own? Because now that I've sent it there, what it has more opportunity to go wrong. So I think the biggest takeaway for making any cost saving is, number 1, if you have access to you guys' sales, or access to something that will show you performance, which areas are doing good, which areas are doing well, which areas have the most impact. Ideally, sales or material purchases, something that has a value attached to it. Then you go to Excel and you rank them according to ones that have the most value attached to the ones that have the least value attached. You take those top 3 and you focus all your attention there, because you'll find, I don't know if you're familiar with the Pareto rule, you'll find that 20% of what you do makes up for more than 80% of your business. So why focus your attention on the 80% that doesn't bring in as much? Focus your attention on those customers who are bringing in most of your money, those customers who are making the most orders. You want to put your energy where it'll have the highest level of impact, because 1% of 100,000 and 1% of 10,000, both 1%, but both have vastly different impacts. You want to look at things clearly. You want to know, how can I make the biggest impact with the least amount of effort? And I can't stress this enough. You want the effort to be as little as possible. You want to be able to spot something, make a quick change, make your saving. Once a saving takes 6 months to be realized, that is no longer a saving. That is a CIP, which is more of a project. And when something's going long term, it takes longer for you to reap those benefits. More often or not, those benefits will be ideal and they will be magnificent. They'll be huge. But you've got to get into the practice of it. You've got to start looking to see, where can we do things differently? How can we do them differently? What types of investments are there? You want to be able to, when you bring up a cost saving, the main things people want to know is, how much will we save? How much will it cost us? if you can get the saving to be high and the costing to be low, you're in. You want to make sure that the investment will not eat away from your cost saving. So you've really got to look at it objectively. Take some stuff to use as representation. Maybe just, I don't know, draw some cash, make some fake cash, print it out, and then just run through it practically, run through it systematically. So you can look at it and you can say, so this is how the money moves. What do I need to do to get it to move differently, get it to move less, or get it to move faster, depending on what it is you want to do. If you want to sell more, focus on people who are buying more. That's the easiest way to get there. If you can focus on your biggest customer, if your biggest customer is bringing in maybe 30% of your business, you want to go visit them, see what it is they're doing, what are they using your products or your services for. You really want to understand what it is they're trying to do. And once you can grasp what it is your customer is trying to do, and then take what they're taking from you, refine it, adjust it, so that it meshes with what they are doing, the benefits will be magnanimous. So you've really got to think about this critically. You got to break it up into smaller pieces, and you've got to focus on those pieces systematically. Don't try and take everything at once. You just want to see, where can I make that largest impact possible that I'm aware of? Where is that area? And then you want to focus there. Sometimes it won't be the biggest area for various reasons. Maybe somebody else is focused there, various things, but you want to be in your top 3. You don't want to be in your bottom 3. Your bottom 3, that's for fun. Don't even waste your time. Chances are those areas are just, they're not even worth your effort. You really want to use your time wisely. Think of time as something precious. Time is the one thing that makes all of us equal. If you figure out how to do as little as humanly possible while achieving maximum results, you've cracked the code. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have the same 24 hours, regardless of who you are. That's the one thing that equalizes us all. So we need to get better at how we use our time, how we focus our efforts. Those are the things that will help us in the long run, whether it's making cost savings, whether it's improving relationships, etc.